of Delhi, and then later pursued her master's in comparative literature from King's College London. She is currently working as a digital content creator. Before we start, just a little housekeeping. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box. I'll bring them up during our webinar, and we will also have time for the questions at the end. Now, without any further delay, we will turn the time over to Kadambari and would request her to start the session by introducing herself to the audience.
Thank you so much for introducing me, Ayushi. Hi, everybody. My name is Kadambari. I think I'll just start off by introducing myself and giving a bit of a background with respect to my education first. So I started off with doing a bachelor's in English from St. Stephen's College, Delhi University. And then I applied for a master's in comparative literature in King's College, London. After completing my master's in King's College London, I ended up working as a assistant marketing executive at Hachette India, a publishing company. Then I actually worked with Aditi ma'am for a year as a marketing and relationship manager. After that, I worked as a digital consultant with Penguin Random House India. And now I am self-employed. So I run Kadambari Bahl Social. You can find me on Instagram or you can find me on LinkedIn. And I basically do a lot of digital content development and social media, etc., etc. So with respect to today's session, I actually did not prepare a presentation per se because I like keeping sessions more interactive. So I think what I'll do is I'll start off with what exactly the process was for me specifically as a person who finished her bachelor's from DU. So while I was doing my bachelor's in DU, towards the end of my second year, I realized that I wanted to go abroad to study and I wanted to get a scholarship. Because I had that clarity and I knew Aditi ma'am, I approached her at the end of my second year itself. And I asked her that, should I start my process right now or should I wait till, the admission process actually starts? So one tip that she gave me that I feel would help most people here is that if you want to apply for scholarship, the earlier you start, the better it is, because scholarship is a completely different ballgame and requires even more work. So you think you have a lot of essays to do for your admission, scholarship, you have even more essays. So every single scholarship that you apply for, you have to write one or minimum one scholarship essay. And you can't so with your statement of purpose, you can just keep reframing it for every college. With scholarships, no, they're a headache. So the tip she gave me is that get all your documentation and everything ready for King's College London in the beginning of your third year when you get that summer break, right? And once you have finished, get that out of the way in the summer break itself, apply. And then after that, you will have that freedom to I think somebody's speaking at the same point, so it's like distracting me a little bit. So once you've finished your master's application, which is basically the essay, right? Get it ready. And after that, you can chill out a little bit. And then the scholarship starts. So as soon as the cycle for master's admissions starts, at the same time itself, the scholarship cycle starts. And that's much more draining than even the master's application. So if you want to do both, the earlier you start, the better it is. With respect to the essay section, for me, it wasn't that much of a difficulty because, I have an English background. I actually had more of an issue with respect to keeping on my documentation. And there's a lot of documentation involved, specifically for visa. it is the biggest headache. So the more you know, the better it is. So after all of that was done, and I'll go into that in more detail in the question answer session, I finally reached King's College London. And I must say the entire experience of London, I cannot even put it in words. So a lot of people studied in UK, but they studied in university towns, and their experience was completely different, and they had nothing against it. But I felt the London experience, it's something else. So I'm a very creative person, right? So almost every weekend in London, there is something happening. There would be a theater festival, there would be a book meet, there would be authors. For instance, if you've heard of Philip Pullman, he wrote a lot of really great books. I actually ended up meeting him and getting my book signed from him. Like Dan Brown also visited at some point of time, but I wasn't that interested in like getting my book signed from him. But every weekend, without fail, some or the other event was happening, and you had so many opportunities to network. The libraries were amazing. Like I have never seen libraries like that anywhere else. And overall, my experience in King's College London was amazing. I wouldn't replace it for the world. One thing I will be very blunt about is that finding a job when I was there, it was a Brexit season, right? So at that point of time, finding a job was really tough. I was very lucky. I managed to get work experience in Penguin Random House, UK, and it was paid. So I was very lucky. I was able to get that experience, but even that was really tough. And after everything else was done, I came back and I managed to get a job mostly through like reaching out to everybody in advance. And overall, I would say the experience was great, but I would advise everybody who goes there to have a very clear-cut idea with respect to what exactly they want to apply for after their masters, if they're going after their masters. In their bachelors, you have lots of internship opportunities to figure out what you want to do, and you can always take up internships in your summer breaks as well as during your course time, because 20 hours you can work. But one thing I would give, one tip I would give is, apart from your application as well, the earlier you start applying for opportunities also, the better it is for you, because everybody wakes up late. So if you are applying in January for a September opportunity, then you will have a leg up over everybody else. And that is how I managed to actually maximize most of the opportunities, by having that first mover advantage. And since then, it's been pretty great. The overall experience was amazing. So that's all I have to say with respect to my experience. Is there anything specific anybody else wants me to talk about? Feel free to ask.
So I have a question for you. Why did you choose KCL as your university to pursue your master's?
Okay, so that was actually a really tough decision. So I actually got admitted in every college I applied for in UK. But I got scholarship from KCL. And a potential for getting a scholarship from like Edinburgh. I was confused between University of Edinburgh and King's College London, because I like the course of University of Edinburgh a little bit more. But at the end, the London experience as a whole won out. And Aditi ma'am also really helped me in deciding that point. I do look back and think maybe I should have gone to Edinburgh, because I feel the education might have been more suited to what I wanted to do. But overall, the experience of London was so great that it overshadowed everything else. Plus, they did give me partial scholarship, not full scholarship, but still, Edinburgh had said they might give me some scholarship and, chances of that were more, but I wouldn't have got my work experience opportunity in UK if I would have done from Edinburgh. So I believe every university that I applied to, I actually wanted to go to, but my top two choices were Edinburgh and KCL, and I got into both. So when you get into your top two colleges, then narrowing down is tough, but you have to go over the pros and cons, speak to a lot of alumni. I spoke to alumni from both colleges. I asked everybody what their experience was. I got the real deal, I went like, listen, you don't have to sugarcoat it for me. What was your actual experience like? And all the alumni, you would not believe, the KCL alumni said, no, Edinburgh is really great. And the Edinburgh alumni said that KCL is really great. So overall, both universities were a good option. So it was a win-win situation.
And why did you choose UK as your study abroad destination and not any other country?
With respect to UK, see, I wanted to do a master's in English, right? And English is the language of UK. At that point of time, I really liked the course in UK, and I had decided either I would continue in India or I would continue in UK. So overall, the entire course options that were there and the reputation and just the quality of teaching I knew I would get in UK won out. So I know currently Canada is a more popular destination because there is more of an opportunity for the future. But I am aware whenever anybody goes to Canada, it is not the quality of education you're going for. You are going there because there's an opportunity for settling there. So you have to decide what your future plan is. Do you want to, and at that point of time, there wasn't even this post-study work visa that UK has started now. Now the visa restrictions have become better. At that point of time, they were in the middle of Brexit, and I ended up going there, and I still had a good experience. But yes, one thing I do regret a little bit is not actually thinking about where exactly I wanted to be in the future. So I would suggest that you think that do you want to get education from a good brand, quality education, and then maybe establish your own business in India, or you want to maybe get a 1-year experience in like UK, then decide whether you want to go and study there. Because the quality of education in UK is really good, and there's no doubt about it. They're ranked well worldwide.
So how is KCL different from other universities?
So it's a city college. So you are actually experiencing London as a whole instead of just the college. You're also in the thick of things. You are not anywhere else. And their libraries are amazing. I also love how much history is there in each building that you go to, very experiential learning. So one of my courses was actually focused on plays. We went and saw 3-4 plays with the entire batch of students. The number of students in my courses were also really less. Like there were 10 students to a class, so you got 1-to-1 attention. All the professors knew you by name. You could go to any coffee shop and start studying. It was a whole experience that you wouldn't get anywhere else. If you are fond of theater, if you're fond of movies, if you're fond of like basically because it's in London, you're not just experiencing the university education, you're experiencing everything. So that's why I think KCL is great.
What all different activities are offered on the campus?
Oh God, everything under the sun, everything, like everything you can think of. If you're fond of manga, there was even a manga club. You're fond of sports, the sports, because it's in London, the field is not in the middle of the city. You have to go slightly to the outskirts, but they have all sports. Their gym is amazing and all the students can access it. And if they can't access the college gym, they have partnerships with gyms near, like lots of accommodations that they have, and you can use all of them. And I've already mentioned the libraries. There's lots of advantages of being a student. So I can't even list them. There are so many. If there is a specific thing that you're interested in, there's a club for it. If your college doesn't have a club, the city has a club. And over there, it's very different from India, right? They don't have like set cliques. So if, let's take, you end up going this month and you're like, I'm really fond of Harry Potter, you can find a community online, and that might have like people in school to people who are like 50, 60 years old, and you all form like a mini group, and you end up having plans on the weekend and everything. So even if your college doesn't have something related to your hobbies or something you want to explore, the city will offer it.
So how are international students supported on the campus?
So most of the students end up being international. Even European students are considered international from them. So they actually, if I didn't really have to use a lot of their international student support systems, but I knew they had it in place. Their medical facilities were also really easy to access. So in case you felt sick, you just had to call a helpline number and you would be able to get a doctor's appointment really easily, and it would be free. It's covered in your health coverage. So I would say that with respect to support, the more you need it, you have to basically ask for it. A lot of it is not automatic like it is in India. You get a lot of newsletters, but you have to watch out for them. And a lot of time you basically have to ask. For instance, like they used to have a lot of like things related to fitness and health, but you had to actually go and ask the administration that how can I join in, right? How can I access this? And when you ask, they have a lot of resources available. They even had mental health resources available if you wanted it. I was also part of student council. So there were a lot of resources. You just had to know to ask for them. And you don't have to ask from a specific person. You can ask anybody, even your professor. They'll just point you in the right direction. So that is something you have to keep in mind, that it's not like people don't chase you there. They expect you to be self-sufficient. They expect that if you need something, you will ask about it, instead of the other way around, in which in India, people are like, do you need something? Do you need something? That's not the case there. You have to be like, I need this. And then they'll give you whatever support you need.
So, Kadambari, as you just said that you were a part of the student council. So, like any international student can be a part of the council, or
no, you have to be elected.
So, what is the process for that?
So for it's called KCLSU, KCL Student Union, and your professors tell you when the applications for the same open up, and basically your classmates have to vote for you. So from my class, people just said who is standing, and we all did like a rock, paper, scissors with respect to who wants to stand. And they said that Kadambari, please stand for it. And like I was chosen and another girl was chosen because we had a class of like 18 students and we were all master students. So there wasn't like a competition for it. But I remember for undergraduate students, there was like people with full on manifestos on digital and on like their website, and like they were handing out cookies and everything, especially if they were first years. So you have to be elected for it. And the process is very simple. You just have to go on their website and upload the fact that you want to be nominated for it, what your aim is, and everything else.
So, talking about the accommodation, currently you used to live on the campus or outside?
So there is no campus accommodation in KCL. They have student residences. So there are certain residences all over London in different localities. I would really recommend you check which residences are close to your campus, because there are multiple campuses. And I would also recommend you check the Google reviews of your student residence, because some of them are quite old. So like first years, of course, would like to stay in student accommodation, but everybody else ends up moving out after the first year. I stayed in this accommodation called Julian Markham House. It's near Elephant and Castle. Because I was a master's student, there were only 2 to 3 official residences I could live in. One was Angel Lane, one was Moonraker, one was Julian Markham House. I was originally assigned to Angel Lane, but I thought it was really far away from my campus. So I had put in a request that please shift me to any of the other residences. And they had an opening and people didn't want to stay in Julian Markham because the Angel Lane residence was newer and fancier. So they reassigned me to Julian Markham. And I really enjoyed living there because it was a student residence. So safety-wise, it was no issue. But it was an older building, and all the European flatmates that I had complained that the rent is a little bit much compared to other accommodations in UK. So you have to know that the student residences are slightly more expensive than accommodation you find on your own, because everything is included in that. You don't pay separately for utilities, so they of course will charge like the maximum that they can. But I had no complaints because number one, I felt really safe. If you live in the college residences, you get a lot of like events which are KCL oriented as well, and you live with KCL students, so you end up everybody ends up going together. There's more of a community that you're able to build with KCL students if you're living in the KCL accommodation. So overall, I really enjoyed the experience, but some of the local students, like more local, like European students, did complain that the residence fees is much higher than would be if they found a place on their own.
So, Kadambari, we have a question from our audience, and she wants to know how LLM from foreign is better than LLM from India. So, generally, if we talk about a foreign degree, not specifically LLM, but how is a foreign degree better than an Indian degree?
Okay, so I think I can give a slightly more specific answer to this because my flatmate was actually doing law from KCL. She had no complaints. So she had actually done a bachelor's from Christ. And she said that I want to do an LLM. I chose to do an LLM from King's because she was not satisfied with the Christ education, and she wanted a better brand name on her resume. She was able to get a better job when she came back to India because she had KCL on her CV. She was also able to take up certain papers that are not very popular in India. So she wanted to specialize in this very super specific field called capital markets, if the person who has asked the question knows about it. And it is not a very popular field in India. It's an emerging field. But she was very clear that this is a field that I want to go into. And it was something she would have had to figure out on her own if she did it in India. But because abroad, it is a much more established concept, um, she was able to take a lot of papers and modules which would help her understand how to draw policy related to that niche field, right? So this applies for all foreign degrees, that if you want to go into an emerging or niche field, you will be able to get better insight into it from a university abroad, especially if it is not an established field in India. If it is a very established field in India, then of course you have to look into all the related insights and pick and choose and make an informed decision. But if you know that it is a niche field that is not established in India, but it is established in certain countries, and KCL for law, it has a very good reputation. So for English, humanities, basically arts, and for law, King's has a really good reputation. So a lot of people end up doing law from King's, and they're all very happy also with it. They never complained. I had 2 LLM students, not one, from it.
So she has another.
So with respect to laws, so that's what you have to research. Both the people who were doing law from KCL had done the necessary research that they would be able to apply the knowledge in their relevant countries. So one of them was doing from based in Amsterdam, and he went back to Amsterdam. And the other was based in India, and she came back to India. So she chose papers that would focus on concepts and fields that could be applied in India and UK both. So UK and India law is quite similar. So because of that, she made an informed decision. She spoke to alumni. She found out that the field she wants to go in, it wouldn't be blocked. And if you want to stay on there after doing law, you have options. She explored it. Because of Brexit, she couldn't get it at that point of time. And the European guy also couldn't get LACE because of Brexit at that point of time. So now, of course, the situation has changed. But both of them had no issues getting a job wherever they went after that.
So apart from the reasons that you stated about the foreign degree, currently, what other reasons do you feel that a foreign education would help a person as compared to the kind of education that is provided in India?
So overall, I feel it's not just the education; it's the entire experience. You have to manage budget. You have to manage your entire time table. You have to take care of yourself. You are in charge of your social calendar. You're basically the boss. As I mentioned, resources also, you have to chase people. Finding a job, you have to do it yourself. There's nobody who's going to like follow along and be like, you have to do this or you have to do that. You are in charge of yourself. So if you don't cook dinner, there's going to be no dinner. If you keep on partying like every day, you'll run out of money and you have nobody else to blame but yourself. So it's all about learning everything, not just studying. It's the entire experience. For instance, some of my friends did tell me that we are so envious that you managed to take part in a lot of events outside of college. Because I used to keep an eye out on social media. I used to be part of a lot of groups, right? So anytime I used to see any event happening, I used to sign up for it and I used to go. While they used to be like, if we get an email from the university, then we will know and then we will go. So one of my friends ended up going on an exchange with China because she really wanted to go, but on the newsletter they said only undergraduate students can apply. So she was a postgraduate student. She sent them an email being like, I'm really interested in this. Is it not possible to apply at all? And they said, no, most of the time the postgraduate students are not interested. But if you are, then you can go on this exchange to Beijing. And she was the only person in her entire international relations batch who ended up going on an international trip because she asked.
Okay. And Kadambari, my next question is about food. So is food a problem there or easily?
No. So if you were going to Europe, food, especially vegetarian food, is a bit of a problem. But in London and UK as a whole, veganism and vegetarianism is really popular. So there is no shortage. There are a lot of Indian stores also. You can get Maggi, you can get Vai, you can get all spices, everything. It's actually really easy to get everything there. I ended up even finding pressure cookers there. Like, I was glad I took my own, but still, the pressure cookers were also available. With respect to food, London is the easiest place to transition to because they have a very vibrant Indian community. And when I was actually traveling in Europe, I faced more of an issue with food than I did in London at any point of time. Even when like my family was visiting, they faced no issue. The local grocery store had like Indian delicacies, Indian spices, and everything. So food is not an issue. You just have to cook it.
So coming back to the applications, currently, I would like to know how did you enhance your profile? Like what kind of activities did you did, and when did you started, concentrating on building your portfolio?
So with respect to my profile, in school and college both, you end up, at least I ended up automatically participating in a lot of extracurricular activities. So because of that, when I had first approached Aditi ma'am, we actually had to list down everything that I've participated in, and we had to remove stuff not to focus on instead of like adding stuff. So I remember when I'd gone, Aditi ma'am had like sat me down and went like, listen, you need to list down everything. Okay. And then some things I missed out on because I'd participated in so much stuff. So even my parents got involved in the process and they were like, oh, she's done this also. Did you know this? And then we had to pick and choose what to focus on. So I've always had an interest in digital. And I actually started blogging when I was in grade 9. And my blog, when I was applying, had more than 1 million hits at that point of time. And I used to get books for review from international publishers. So that is something we decided to highlight. And even now, in my resume, this is a part of me because this helped me get my first jobs also. Um, and I'm still in digital. So you have to pick and choose what is your USP. And if you don't have a USP, Aditi ma'am kind of like helps you narrow down what you should focus on. So especially if you're younger, right, it becomes hard to figure out what your USP is. So it's really important to get a second opinion. Okay, should I actually focus on this? So previously, before I approached Aditi ma'am, I was focusing only on college stuff that I've done. And my blog, which when I see it now sounds really impressive. But at that point, I was just like, oh, ye to main aiming karti hu, like million it's not a big deal and everything. And when I show, like when it was mentioned, and Aditi ma'am went like, no, but this blog thing you've done on your own independently and at a time that nobody knows even blogging exists, right? The college stuff everybody else is doing. So while it's like great, you were a college leader in certain things like Project Akshar and Actors and everything. That isn't as unique as running an entire blog from yourself from grade 9. So you have to get that second opinion to know what you actually should focus on to make yourself stand out from the crowd. And yeah, if you've not done anything, the earlier you start planning for it, the better it is, because then you have to put in time to even do the activities. So that would be a tip I give.
So apart from blogging, what other activities were you a part of during your college?
Too many. Okay. So I was college leader for St. Stephen's for Enactus from another college, not my college, because my college didn't have Enactus at that point of time. Then I was part of the Literary Society. I was yearbook sub-editor and then main editor 2 years in a row. Then outside of that, also, I participated in a lot of internships. I interned with Times of India. I interned with Penguin. I also interned with Hachette. So you'll notice a lot of places I ended up interning. I got a job also later. Then I interned with like a community radio as well. At where did I intern in my third year? I think second year I was too busy with third year I was too busy with applications to intern anywhere. But I did do some writing at that point of time too. I was actually interning till for beyond summer also. So while I was doing college, I was interning with Hachette, and my Hachette supervisor ended up being my recommender for Rhodes Scholarship. So like I did a lot of stuff. So that's why like it became hard to narrow down on what exactly I should focus on my application.
So Kadambari, for the students who are interested in pursuing something in literature from Kcl or any university abroad, what would be your advice for them, especially about the activities? So what kind of activities they should really focus on to build their profile?
So it depends on what field exactly you want to go into. Do you want to get into academics, like hardcore academics, or do you want to get into the writing side of it? Because if you want to get into the writing side of it, try to find internships and experiences that focus on writing. If you want to get into the academic side of it, try to find somebody who is working on a research paper, or try participating in almost each and every research paper presentation competitions. Oh, I won one of those also. That was also part of my resume. So yeah, but I wasn't interested in the pure academic side of it. But if you're applying for a master's, showing that you have participated in research paper presentations also makes you stand out, because that is stuff that you will end up doing in your master's also. There are a lot of research papers in UK. So if they see, oh, you have experience doing that, then that makes you stand out from the crowd. So try to do activities related to what you want to do in UK or during your masters, and showcase that you are already doing it at a maybe slightly lower level. You just want to take it to the international level or global level later.
What would be your advice for the students regarding essays?
So this is for UK, right? This is not Common App?
Yeah, UK.
Okay. So for UK, I would suggest that UK is still very hung up on academics. So I know a lot of people want to be really creative in their essays, but you have to show you have a very strong academic base for UK essays. So extracurriculars should take up maybe one section, one smaller section. Academics, your interest in academics, your expertise in that field should take up more space in the essay. A lot of students who are not as who are not academic toppers think that they shouldn't focus on academics. I would advise against it, because you can always showcase that you know the subject through your essays, right? They want to know you have the skills and the understanding. If you completely ignore academics and focus on extracurriculars, then UK goes like, can this person even handle our education? Right? You have to showcase you have the interest in studying and academics, and maybe you've done some extracurriculars that help you gain experience in studies and academics, but like keep the focus more academic oriented in your essay.
So, Kadambari, what would be your advice for the students and the parents who are about to start this journey?
I would say don't lose hope. It is a long process, especially if you are applying for scholarships simultaneously. I would say the one thing always keep in mind is keep the hope alive and don't give up. Your essay will go through multiple rounds of editing. You can't just like, you'll want to throw it in a bin at some point of time, but I would suggest take a break, come back to it, and just keep at it. Don't give up, basically. You'll get into your dream college if you just stay at it.
So, coming on to your future plans. So, what are you looking forward?
So actually, I have just gotten admission in an MBA program. So I am going to be pursuing an MBA abroad. So that's my future plan. I'm actually starting in September this year. So that's what I'm going to be doing.
So, why an MBA after literature and English?
Yeah, so I realized after doing a master's that I'm not really fond of the academic side of English. So you would notice from my work experience also that I focused a lot on social media and digital content. And for that, you need a more marketing focus than a literature focus. So that's why in the beginning of the talk, I was giving the advice that please have more clarity with respect to what exactly you want to do later. So when I had started doing my master's, I had thought that maybe I want to get into academics, but I'm not too sure. But because the master's was so rigorous, I realized that I enjoy the stuff that I'm doing outside of the classroom much more. And I saw how well, like how limitless the digital space is in UK. And when I came back, I realized that in India, the space is still emerging. So a lot of times I felt like we were playing catch up in India. So I came back, I got work experience, I got more clarity with respect to what exactly I want to do in the future, and realized that I need to upskill. So I have been working in the marketing space for 3 years with no background in marketing. So now I want to shift to strategy. And for that, you need a little bit of a base. So that's why I'm going and studying an MBA.
So, where do you see yourself after 10 years?
Ah, okay. I feel like I'm giving an MBA interview right now. So in 10 years, I see myself being more established and working in a Fortune 500 company. So when I had gone for my master's, I was at a very different space. Now I know that I want to make a name for myself in marketing and strategy. So because of that, I'm starting my process by pursuing an MBA right now. I will get 5 to 6 years work experience. and then after that, maybe start something of my own again. But I want to work in a Fortune 500 company first, because I feel the corporate structure teaches you so much. But to break into the corporate structure, you kind of need that education in the field that you want to pursue.
So I would request our audience to kindly pose their questions. So Kadambari, how was your experience with ProEd?
So my experience with ProEd has always been great. I did the experience with ProEd, came back, worked with them for 1 year as a marketing and relationship manager. So that should give you a hint as to how good my experience with them was. But I will warn all students and teachers that Aditi ma'am is a perfectionist, and she will make sure you put forward the best profile that you can. And for that, you will have to put in the work with her, because she will push you. But most of the time you end up needing that push. So yeah.
So now I could ask Aditi how Kadambari was her student and her experience of guiding her.
It's been a very long association with Kadambari. I'm just thinking back, if she went to KCL in 2016-17, so I've known her from like 5-6 years, 7 years maybe, and she's one of the most brilliant students I've ever met. In fact, she's so humble, you wouldn't even know. She was a gold medalist in class 12. When she came to me with her resume, the most extraordinary thing was a young adult reader, where she had, I think, more than 1.8 million hits. And she was so oblivious of who she was. I mean, Penguin, Hatchet, the leading publishing houses in the world were sending her books, asking her to review, falling at her feet. And it was the most inconsequential part of her resume. I remember, I was aghast at, how can somebody be so humble? And, her, it was so wonderful working with her. I mean, her ideas, I still remember, she wanted to convert, remove the gender discrimination from fairy tales, and, she had such beautiful, wonderful ideas of things she wanted to do. And her love for Harry Potter, which was included in her Oxford essay, and it was such a, beautiful ending to the essay, Dumbledore's lines. These are some things I still can't forget while working with Kadambari. And then, of course, she worked with us for a year. And when she worked, I think she's like the star employee. I mean, the best employee that ProEd ever had as part of its team. I mean, she did so much for our image, for our branding, for our social media, the kind of relationships she forged with the clients, and, their reliance on her. I'm sure once she does her MBA and, goes completely, I'm sure the digital world will change because of her. She has that kind of a, brilliant mind. I'm sure she will be like a path breaker. The less said, I mean, I can't stop, raving about her.
So as you can see, Aditi ma'am remembers more of my resume than I do. I forgotten I was a gold medalist. So yeah, so she's the one, the blog is the thing that she's talking about, the young readers thing. So she's right. It was like the last line in my resume in my other achievements section where, you add which languages and like you Microsoft Word and Excel, mein tumko, how to do that. It was literally the last line in my resume that, oh, I have a blog too, which has a good readership. So she went like, what do you mean by good readership? So I actually went and checked my blog statistics for the first time, thanks to her. So I went, oh, it is like, 1 million hits. She's like, I'm not joking. She literally had an issue because she had to approach my parents to get a proper insight with respect to what all I have done, because I forgot. as you can see. Exhibit A, I forgot parts of my profile while speaking right now as well.
And I also remember you were among the toppers in St. Stephen's. You're among the top 5 students, I think, if I'm not wrong. Huh?
Most probably, yes. I didn't even know. I had to find out because Aditi ma'am really pushed me. She said that, okay, can you give me an estimate with respect to how many people in your course or class have more than 70%? So I was like slightly above 70%. And at that point of time, because I was part of the FIUP batch, right? 70%, above 70% in English was rare. So I did not know. Because Aditi ma'am pushed me, I found out, I asked my class toppers that what is your percentage overall and everything. Because that is information that is not readily available. They don't tell you where your standing in the class is. But you have to put across these details in your resume. So seriously, Aditi ma'am really pushed me because as she mentioned, I don't really like talking about myself that much. Even for this, they've had to chase me quite a bit.
So I would request our audience to kindly pose their questions because we are about to end the webinar. So Kadambari, is there anything else, any last minute advice, any suggestion for the students, parents?
I think if you are in the creative field, one suggestion I would give is have a document in which you keep compiling all the work and all the activities that you've been doing. If it is a new thing, I would even suggest you keep screenshots of it, because certain things that I had done years ago, the entire website has changed or they've restructured the website. And because of that, they are no longer available online. So if I wouldn't have downloaded the web page or website, I would never have been able to access it. And especially for college oriented items, right? So they always make those temporary websites, which they never pay for the 5-year plan. They always pay for the 1 year or 2-year plan. But if you are applying, let's say you're applying for a bachelor's right now, and at a master's or PhD level, you need to link to something you've done at a bachelor's level. Always consolidate everything, because you will need to remember it. While I was applying for my MBA, I had to access my Google documents from 2015. And if I hadn't had them in my Google Drive, I would have faced an issue. So this is one advice I will give, is that with respect to activities and anything education related, keep solid documentation. You will need it at some point or the other.
So I guess we don't have any more questions from the audience. Thank you so much, Kadambari, for taking our time. It was really wonderful to have you today. All the insights and all the suggestions that you gave, I'm sure it must have helped a lot of students and parents. Thank you so much for taking out time from your busy schedule for this webinar.
Thank you so much for having me. And I have linked my Instagram account here. So if any of you have any queries after that as well, feel free to reach out to me. I don't mind giving any insights. And I know this is a pro-ed session, but I'm not a paid promoter. I've actually used Aditi ma'am's services and I worked with her. So my entire experience has been great. While for my MBA, I applied by myself. She helped me through my visa process for MBA as well. And I'm not exaggerating. She helped me put across a visa application in a week. And other classmates have been asking me how I managed to put across such a strong application in a week, and it's all thanks to ma'am. So yeah, overall, you can reach out to me, and thank you for having me. And thank you so much, Aditi ma'am, for being such a wonderful mentor and teacher. And thank you for having me.
Most welcome, Kadambari. It's been wonderful mentoring, knowing you, having you as a student, and working with you. All the best for your MBA from my heart.
Thank
God
you,
bless.
ma'am. I will keep bothering you. Don't worry.
Yes, always.
Okay. So that's it for mine. Should we wrap up then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.